Now, this may seem sort of strange or maybe a little trivial to most of you, but in the life of the church, as I began the service, this weekend is the first weekend in a new church year. It's sort of the New Year's Day in the life of the church, and not only that, this weekend is the first weekend in the season we call Advent. And so in many, many ways, today is like a new beginning for the church. The church is all decorated here. We've got all these candles. We lit the Advent wreath over here. We can tell that something new is about to begin. We can see it all around us. Well, as a kid, each night before bed, my father would read a few chapters of a novel to us. That was sort of our tradition growing up. And I remember how excited I was when we would begin a new book. To this day, I love opening new books for the first time. You know what I'm talking about. Literally cracking them open. How many of you enjoy that? Huh? You crack them open and make those crisp pages open for the first time. Now, around our house today with little boys, the books we're reading come with names like The Monkeys in the Bed, or Curious George, or Little Critters, or the Berenstein Bears. And each time we get a new book from the library, my boys are just so excited. I imagine this Sunday sort of like opening the pages of a new book. Say the first time you open C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia. And within a few pages, if you recall the story, you find yourself with those children stepping for the first time into that wardrobe closet, and you're whisked off to that fantasy world, catapulted into the world of, help me, Narnia. Right. Or maybe like the first time you opened Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, that first book in J.K. Rowling's adventures at Hogwarts. Very good. You boarded the train with Harry Potter for Hogwarts after that dismal summer with his aunt and uncle. And if it's not C.S. Lewis, maybe, or J.K. Rowling's, maybe it's Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. I don't know what your flavor is. But you know what it's like. Opening the first few pages of that book, you know you are really going to like. And I think what makes these books so great is that they whisk you off into this world of fantasy. It's fantasy. That's how it is. You get sent into another world. It's beyond our everyday, our ordinary experience. They take you on wild adventures, and we sort of eat it up. I sometimes wonder if this time of the year is much the same. I wonder if we love this time of year because, like a great book, we get whisked off into another world. Look around us. Uptown here, It's a Wonderful Life is playing. We've got those magical Christmas lights that are lit downtown Alexandria here. And we want to hear those carolers in their costumes. And there's this jolly mythical character that starts showing up at the mall in his red suit. And of course, we don't want to disappoint our youngsters with the truth about Santa, because we all love the fantasy. We don't want to ruin it for them. And we do things during the holidays, I think, that prove that it's a fantasy time of the year. All right, so we eat Christmas cookies as though we live in a world where calories simply float away. Huh? I'm guilty. In the stores, we see all those things we must have, and so we use those magic credit cards as though the Christmas genie will magically take care of that debt. This time of year takes us to another world. Folks, this time of year is about fantasy. It's all around us. Well, in our Bible reading today, we hear much the same. These readings, they sort of take us to a place we can only describe as fantasy. They take us to this otherworldly place beyond our everyday experience. Our readings take us to a place of our dreams. You see, both our readings point us to the future. The reading from the prophet, the reading from the New Testament there, they point us to God's future. And it's a future that sort of seems like a fantasy. We get this sort of wild vision of the future. Bear with me for a second. The prophet Jeremiah talks about how a day will come when God will return and reign, and God's justice and righteousness will be the norm here. A day when all will live in peace and safety and harmony and love. I mean, come on. We can't even imagine that. With all our politics, our love of war and might makes right, I don't think we believe that it's even possible. And then, in a reading from Luke, we hear again of a day when the heavens will be shaken, and it says, the Son of Man will come in a cloud with power and glory. Again, a day when God will return and establish God's peace and God's mercy. Now, bear with me for a minute here. I mentioned earlier that it's the beginning of Advent. We have these 4 weeks leading up to Christmas. The word Advent actually means to come. And during Advent, we celebrate 3 Advents, really. 3 comings of Christ. First Advent, of course, is about that baby who came 2,000 years ago. We know about that. But during Advent, we also remember that Christ continues to come into our lives. And so we light all these candles to remind us that Christ's light shines in the darkness of our lives here and now. But finally, Advent is a time in the life of our faith when we also remember that Christ promises to come again. The story of our faith is such that Christ promises to come again and one day usher in peace and hope and mercy and love here in our world. And during Advent, we remember this promise. We remember that Christ will come again, and I think for most of us, it's this Advent. This coming of Christ in the future, it's a little strange to most of us. It makes us feel a little uncomfortable. We don't quite know how to talk about it. But that's what we have today. You see, these readings, they seem like a fantasy. Promises from God that God will return. In Luke, we have Jesus promising his disciples that there will come a time, yes, of great tribulation, it says, and difficulty and trials and testing, and that during that time, it says, the Son of Man will come in clouds with great power and glory, and his appearance will usher in a whole new life in his glory. A time when God will reign with peace forever. And here's the deal. It's all fantasy. It is. Now don't get me wrong, I didn't say it's fiction. I said it's fantasy. There isn't one of us who has seen the reign of God. I mean, I can't imagine what that world would look like. God coming near to us, living here among us. But isn't that deep down, isn't that what we all want? We all hope for? A world where there's peace and joy. A world where there's war no more. A world where whoever you are and whatever you've done, you're accepted, forgiven, and loved. A world where when you are last, you're actually first. A world where anxieties about kids and grandkids and finances and employment and mortgages, they sort of mean very little. Our reading, it talks about trials and tribulations, the roaring of the seas and waves. We know all about this. It sort of feels like the evening news. We recently heard about Hurricane Sandy. We know about economy troubles. Every day there's something new in the news to fear. We know about trials and tribulation. But this business of Christ coming again, Christ coming on the clouds in power and glory. I don't think we have a clue what that's all about. I can't imagine it. It sounds a lot like the never-ending story, or Harry Potter, or Narnia. The thought of God really coming near and establishing a world of peace and mercy and love, I don't know. It just seems so beyond our understanding. So beyond this world, I think we can only call it fantasy. It's like a dream. It's like our greatest dream. I don't know about you, but I hold the stories of the Bible as really, really important. Not because the Bible tells me about things that I have seen or know or can put my finger on, but rather I have faith because the Bible describes a life with God that stretches so far beyond what I know. Way beyond what I know. Beyond what's all around me. Beyond what's in the news. And this faith gives us a vision of God's world. God's love. A world so beyond anything we can imagine. This is what our faith offers us. An impossible possibilities of it. A reality that transcends our everyday, ordinary, a truth deeper than all the truths we're sort of sold from day to day. A story that stretches beyond and includes all our stories so as to give each one of us meaning and joy and peace. And I think that's why we believe, isn't it? And I think that's why we baptize little ones. Because in our heart of hearts, we know there's got to be something more. There's got to be something else. A way of being and living that is grounded in something beyond what we experience from day to day. Love and mercy and forgiveness and joy. And that's the story of our faith. The story of something so much more. A story that's otherworldly and way beyond our experience. And we want to be part of it, I think. It's like that perfect fairy tale. It's our ultimate hope. You see, friends, as we start this year, as we start this march to Christmas, we have these wild, sort of strange readings that in the end give us this wild picture of God's love and God's world. It's like we're opening the story about Hogwarts or Narnia or J.R.R. Tolkien for the first time with this deep, deep hope that this story of our faith will take us away to a place that's different, a place unlike what we know, a reality where our deepest hopes and dreams are made real. It's that sort of a hope it's at the heart of our faith. The belief that with God there is something more. The hope that God would come near again and we would know God's peace and God's love. Now I know, maybe it seems a little bit strange, sort of like a fairy tale. It's as if it's out of this world, sort of like Narnia or Hogwarts, I know. But folks, this is the hope, I think. The hope of our faith. That deep down there's something more. And it's a real gift. It's a promise from God. Thanks be to God.